Naveen Jain. Naveen, my friend, is an incredible entrepreneur, has such an incredible career. I'll let you talk a little bit more about that as we go through our questions with you here. But you are the founder of Viome, the brand new testing company that you have developed in your spare time. And we want to hear more about it. And we're also here with Kevin Peak, who is the president of Next Health. And I'm Dr. Darshan Shah, CEO of Next Health. And we are going to talk all things metabolic intelligence, about the gut, about the microbiome. And we're going... for those of you, for those of you who are listening and now watching, Naveen just took all of our questions away from us. But I know Naveen; he'll do most of the talking here, anyways. Well, so Naveen, before we start talking about Viome, which is we have a lot of questions for you on that. Tell us a little bit. You're a serial entrepreneur. You're the definition of a serial entrepreneur, and you've had great successes in the tech industry. And you basically, next to the word moonshot in the dictionary, there's a picture of you in it. Tell me a little bit about your career and why health and wellness. What made you go this particular direction, especially after, your history in tech?
Well, first of all, Dr. Shah, this is an honor to be here with you.
Thank you.
And I think the reason I decided that this is the right place to be, there is no problem in the world that would impact the billions of people's lives. The idea of healthcare is suddenly, has really become more of a symptom suppression care, right? There is no healthcare. It's not even a sick care. It is all they do is they suppress the symptoms that you have. Right. Now imagine if you have autoimmune diseases, they don't really care what's causing the autoimmune diseases. Let's just suppress the damn immune system. Heaven's sake, you suppress the immune system, aren't you going to get a bunch of other diseases? Oh yeah, but we got drugs for them too, right? So it's really, the idea is they look at the chronic diseases as a subscription business. And every time someone develops a chronic disease and they're like ka-ching, and they're thinking there's a lifetime subscription for them. Right. And I really think at some point of time, we all have to look in the mirror and saying, we as humans, is this the best of us or the best of is yet to come? Are we going to really continue to victimize the people who are suffering, or are we going to go out and give them the tools so they can use them to not only eliminate suffering for themselves, but be the pioneer so that we don't see our children and grandchildren suffer? Now, I don't understand any company, pharmaceutical company CEO, how can they wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and still be alive and not shoot themselves? Because they have become a parasite on humanity. And I believe that humanity will come together to kill these parasites. And thank you, Dr. Darshan Shah, to actually start something that is going to do just that. So I'm so proud to be here at Next Health. And I really believe what you have started is really is going to ignite. It's going to ignite a movement, and a movement of people. They're going to go out and take control of their own health. The people who are going to go out and become the CEO of their own health. People who are going to say no to being victimized. People who are going to say enough is enough, and I'm not going to allow the doctors and this system to continue to make us suffer. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and I'm proud of you to be here.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my reason for starting Next Health, our reason for starting Next Health was completely fed up with the traditional medical system that I was educated in. Yeah. We spend one day on learning about the causes of the disease and years and years learning basically how to be a salesperson for the pharmaceutical industry. It's absolutely ridiculous. Why is it that every time we have a symptom, we have a drug that treats a symptom, but never the cause of the disease? Right. That's the reason for Next Health's inception and why we're doing what we're doing. And we're so proud to partner with Viome too, as being part of the solution, not part of the problem. So before we talk more about Viome, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial history again. Tell us specifically about your history in tech, and then you're going to the moon, right?
Well, so first of all, Dr. Shah, I really rather not talk about myself because I want to talk about the people who are listening to this podcast, right? I want to really be providing them with the tools and the help that they can. So I would rather talk about how can they be a great entrepreneur. It's really not about me. To me, the best thing I can do is to give you the wisdom that I have learned, the lessons I have learned about being an entrepreneur. To me, the lessons are simply one has to dream big. There is no problem that we can't solve. We are living in the most innovative decade in the human history. Today, you and I and a small group of people are capable of solving the problems that only the Fortune 500 companies or aristocrats or the kings and queens did. Or for that matter, only the nation states did. I believe the entrepreneurs are going to become the next superpower. The nation states are going to become irrelevant. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't stop us from you, Kevin, and I to go out and solve the problem of healthcare. And that's why I believe it is not going to be Obamacare or Trump care or Putin care that's going to solve this problem. It's going to be Shah and Kevin and Naveen who are going to say, and millions of others who are listening to it, they're fed up with this system, joining us in this movement to take this thing forward. And here's the worst part. Even if we fail as a business, we would have moved the humanity forward. And somebody's going to pick that baton up and is going to stand on our shoulder and going to take it all the way to the end. So even if we fail as a business, we would have succeeded.
Yeah, I love that.
and I think the biggest key is just changing the mindset. Yeah. You know, and I feel like both of what we're doing, the whole mission is changing the mindset, everyone's mindset. Yeah. And it takes people who are fearless, which is what I love about you. I mean, I don't know you as well as Darshan does, but the first time I met you was at the Bulletproof conference, right? And right when you launched Viome. Yeah. And I remember seeing you in front of the booth out there talking to customers, you know, pitching your product. And I didn't think much of it at that time. But later, when I learned more about you and I realized that you're this incredibly successful philanthropist and visionary and businessman, I mean, you're a billionaire, right? And I thought to myself, I was like, wow, this guy is a badass. I mean, most people who become billionaires, or the few that do, you know, they're retired, they're jet setting around the world, they're still running companies, but from the top of the mountain, right? With layers of people in between them before, you know, separating them from the general public. And you're out there at conferences on the ground floor, you know, passionately, enthusiastically, like putting the message out there. And I think it's just such a statement for what we need to do to move this mission forward. Like, you have to be fearless. We're going up against, you know, healthcare. We're going up against the biggest industries in the world to make this change happen.
And first of all, I mean, I agree with you, Kevin, that, you know, one has to be completely fearless. But I was thinking you're going to say that, you know, I saw you the first time and you were this charming, handsome guy. All you could remember was a billionaire.
In addition to that.
But anyways, the fact really remains is that it's not about being fearless. It's about caring about yourself, caring about your family, and caring about the world. If it's not even sometimes it's about you, it's about looking in the mirror and saying, what can I do that is going to change the lives of a million people somewhere around the world? And when it becomes beyond you, that's when it becomes a mission. So it's not about someone saying, I want to take care of myself. Everyone wants to take care of themselves. When they go stretch themselves to say, it's not just me taking care of myself or my family. I want to go take care of my society. I want to take care of the humanity because I can. And it takes one person is all it takes to ignite and change the way people do business. And then, like, I can give you examples after examples, right? You look at Elon Musk. When he said, I'm going to build an electric car, everyone told him there is just no market for electric car. And secondly, do you know in the last 50 years, no new car company has ever been created?
I know.
And what did he say? It doesn't matter. I'm going to go out and do that. Who is going to build the battery for you? I'm going to build out the biggest battery company if that's all I have to do. And guess what? Today, here he stands, his market cap is bigger than all those companies out there that they thought it wasn't possible. It takes one person to say, enough is enough. We are not going to allow the fossil fuel to destroy our environment. And you can go out there and say, when I started my other company called Moon Express, It wasn't about going to the moon. It was simply about saying that we as humanity are at danger. We all of us live on a single spacecraft. We call that spacecraft planet Earth. It's flying around in the space. Imagine if our spacecraft gets hit by a large rock. We can all be destroyed just like dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. It's not that a planet would be destroyed. Planet will still be around just like planet was around for us after dinosaurs died.
Yeah.
The human species may not survive. And there'll be the new generation, the new type of things will come about, and they may be totally new species. How can we protect the human species from completely getting destroyed?
So let me ask you on that note, why Viome? Why put all your energy towards gut health at this stage of the game?
So again, coming back to it, as I was, now we are launching our first mission to the moon so we can create a multiplanetary society, take the humanity from one single spacecraft to second spacecraft, the third spacecraft, and the fourth spacecraft, and eventually distribute the humanity. So if one of our spacecraft get damaged, the species still can survive. Mm-hmm. As I was finishing that project, I started to occur to me, what are the biggest problems that need solving? And I thought about, could I go fix education or should I go fix healthcare? And as I looked at both the things, and I talked to you, Dr. Shah, about it, right? Mm-hmm. That problems in both things are very similar. If you look at our education system, people believe it is not working, it is broken, and people ask about healthcare, they say it's just not working, it's broken. And it turns out neither one of the system is actually broken. They're doing exactly what they were designed to do. Our education system was designed to teach us skills. So in the industrial era, they need 500,000 machinists, they need 50,000 accountants, they need, and all these skills that you were learning, you can apply those skills for the rest of your life. In the world of exponential technologies, it doesn't matter what skill you learn, it becomes obsolete by the time you graduate. So how do you have an education system that skills are becoming obsolete? It has to be rethought, reimagined, and redesigned, not fixing the broken system, but creating a new system that is not unidisciplinary, that's multidisciplinary. Learning to learn, learning to solve problems, working in a collaboration rather than individuals, right? When somebody asks you a question, you say, hey, Darshan, what do you think is the answer? They call that cheating. In a company, that's called teamwork.
Exactly.
Right? So my point is, I thought that was a great thing to do. And then I looked at healthcare and I said, oh my God, this is one place, this is so needs reinvention, where people have completely ignored the basic things of why people are sick. I mean, I've never seen an industry that can sell you a product knowingly that it is going to only harm you. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you what I mean by that is, a best drug that's approved by FDA has an efficacy rate of 20% to 25%. That's the efficacy rate of the best drug. What that really means in simple language is 70% or 75% of the people are not going to be helped by it. And all those things you hear, you will also get this. They only get that.
There's more side effects than the actual.
Only thing they're getting is the side effect and nothing else.
Right.
So imagine if you're selling a product that says 75% of you are only going to be harmed by it. Other 25% might get some help, but you're also going to be harmed by it, but you should go buy it anyway.
That's ridiculous. Right? The other big problem that I see with healthcare the way it is today is the general public has basically outsourced their health to the medical community, the medical environment. And there's a huge hurdle to cross over in re-educating people about, number one, not only about their health, but why they should care about their health and why they should take their health into their own hands rather than just say, I'm going to wait till I get sick and then I'll go to the emergency room or go to the doctor. And part of what you're doing with Viome is re-educating the public. Isn't that true?
It's partly true, but partly actually it is not as difficult as you think it is. Why is it people get their car tuned? They get their oil change. They don't wait for the car to break down and take it to the repair shop because they know if they don't tune the car, it ends up in a repair shop. Now, all we have to say is if you don't take care of your body, it ends up in a repair shop called ER.
Right.
And it's just no fun, right? So the point is, people who are today have chronic diseases, forget about the acute care. Our system does a great job. If you have an infection and if you have an acute accident, our healthcare system does a great job of that. Now imagine when you have a chronic condition. Even if you go see a doctor, what is going to happen? Your pain doesn't go away. You have you have a rheumatoid arthritis. You're going to wake up with pain. You can take drug and the pain goes away for 2 weeks. You guess what? You got to go back with the drug again. You know every day you are suffering. It doesn't take a lot when someone is suffering to give them a painkiller. What's a painkiller? What if I can tell you what is going on inside your body? And all you have to do is simply do what you do every day, which is to eat the food. And we just tell you what's the right food for you and what's not the right food for you. That's it. What if today we can tell you that there is no such thing as universal healthy food? Even though everyone believed the Popeye was right and the spinach got to be right for everyone, but the Popeye was wrong. It may have been right for Popeye. It doesn't work for Dr. Shah.
Exactly.
Right? Because at the end of the day, every food, there are two ways of looking at it. Every food has nutrients or chemicals. When you eat that food, it goes to your gut. And the gut has to essentially convert that chemical or nutrient into something that your body can digest or body can benefit from. So if you're eating a spinach that has a lot of oxalic acid or oxalate, and if you don't have the gut organism that can detox that oxalate, it's going to end up as a kidney stone or it's going to do some other inflammation in your body. And that's really the thing. So when you eat raspberry or you eat pomegranate juice, and all that these things have is allergic acid. Allergic acid in itself is not good unless your gut microbiome convert that allergic acid into antioxidative thing that's called urolithin A. And if it's not being converted to ULA, at best, you're not benefiting, or worse, you're causing harm. Right?
And I think just take a step back here. I think we should talk a little bit about the microbiome and what it is and why is this so important? Because it's a whole new paradigm just recently in the last, I would say 5-10 years has been elucidated, where people thought you eat food, you get nutrients from it, you get calories from it, and that's how our relationship with food was. But it turns out the food has a lot more to do with how it's interacting with your microbiome than it does even with your own system. So your microbiome is partnered with your body. And I know you have a great analogy for this on what to do with the food once it comes in and what it's going to take and what it's going to give back to you as a host organism. So tell us a little bit about the partnership between the microbiome and the human body.
So first of all, let me just give some of the facts that I learned. And again, I just want to be clear here that I'm not a doctor or a scientist. And that gave me an advantage to rethink and reimagine this whole system. So not being an expert really is my expertise, right? Because that allows me to question everything. So when I start to read about how does the human body actually work, it turns out that we all are told from the time we are born that our genes are our destiny. Our DNA that we get from our mom and dad is what makes us who we are. And that's what we were taught. It turns out that our human DNA that we get from our mom and dad only account for about 20 to 22,000 genes that they express. Now imagine the organisms in your gut that are called microbiome. I'm going to come back and tell you what these things really are. But everything that you think is icky, like bacteria, the viruses, the yeast, fungus, mold, all that stuff, they are in your gut and they are your friend. And they're not thousands of them. They are not millions of them. These are not billions of them. There are trillions of them. The trillions of them that are inside your body, they produce 2 million to 20 million genes. Wow. And human body produces only about 20,000 genes. At best, we are 1% human, right? Think about that for a second. So as proud as we are of who we are basically a beautiful container for these microorganisms. We are a walking, talking ecosystem.
Or like a petri dish.
But I mean, petri dish is actually maybe a whole bunch of liquid and little bit of organism. In this case, we really are to large extent evolved. And one could argue that humans were created by them And I know Dr. Shah is waiting for me to tell him the story about how humans were created, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's interesting too, because the microbiome, the bacteria, viruses, fungi in our body do exert influence on our body and our brains. And, our gut is very intimately connected with our brains, not just with the vagus nerve, but through chemicals in our bloodstream. And you can almost argue that there probably is an exertion of control over our human brain that we don't even really sense, but our microbiome has so much control that it does lead us in certain directions almost all day long, right?
Oh my God. So let me just tell you the story, then I'm going to tell you all the scientific papers that actually prove that my tongue-in-cheek story, that why this is actually true.
Okay.
So did you ever wonder how humans were created? Right. We all think that somehow the Darwinian theory applied and we just somehow converted somewhere from single cell amoeba into this complex humans. Mm-hmm. What if there was a different explanation of all that? So here's how I think it could have really happened. So as we know that on this planet, about 3.5-4 billion years ago, these microorganisms start to evolve. We start to see this single cell amoeba. We start to see the bacteria, and we start to see the viruses, and we start to see the yeast and the fungus and the mold. They all have been around for 3.5 billion years. Humans only evolved in the last couple of million years. How did it all happen? So here's how I think it happened. One day, all these organisms got together, and they all looked at each other and said, we're sick and tired of living in this small space in Africa. We want to take over the world. And they all thought, what could they do? One of the smarter ones thought he had an idea. He said, what if we can create something that is bipedal, that can walk everywhere? All we have to do is keep this thing healthy. Trillions of us could live inside it. We can make it crave any food that we want. It's going to go run around everywhere looking for food for us. It's going to feed us. It's going to go everywhere in the world. It's going to poop everywhere. It's going to spread us around, and we're going to take over the world. And they created humans. And as soon as they created humans, they realized, what do we do now? What if this thing we just created became smarter than us? What would we do? It's no different than humans worry about artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. We created artificial intelligence, and now people are worried, what if someday artificial intelligence becomes smarter than us? What would happen to us? Elon believes we are all going to be slaves of these AI. Guess what? Bacteria were a lot smarter. So they all now got together because they were really worried. Master, we have a problem. We created these thing called humans. Aren't you worried someday they might take over us and they become smarter than us? What are we going to do about it? Master says we put all the controls in place before we created it. Tell us more, Master. Well, Master said, I'm going to tell you one secret. Inside their cell, this thing they call mitochondria, they don't remember it used to be one of our brother. It's the bacteria. It's right inside their cell. It provides all the energy to their cell. We sit in the gut and we communicate with these mitochondria, our brother. Anytime the humans go out of control, we tell our brother to shut their energy down. And they're done. And they're gone. Master, that's brilliant. But you're forgetting something. Aren't you worried these guys are starting to develop a thing called brain? What are we going to do about the brain thing? Master said, that was the easiest part. We knew what we were doing. Remember, we put a direct connection to their brain. And they call that a vagus nerve. They thought they're going to name it after Las Vegas, thinking what happens in the gut is going to stay in the gut. They were so wrong. What happens in the gut goes everywhere. Guess what? We control their emotions. We control their behavior. And the thing that makes them feel good, the serotonin thing, we don't let them produce much of that. 90% of that, we produce it ourselves right here. Here's the best part. We control their decision making. We control everything they do. But like a good leader, we'll make them think they are the one who are making the decisions, right? We simply sit here, we pull all the strings, and they think they are the one who are making the decision. So sit back, relax. We have taken over the world. And ladies and gentlemen, so we humans are under control of these brilliant geniuses that are inside our gut.
How has that movie not been made yet?
You should become a movie producer.
There you go. Dr. Shah, you are in LA.
There you go. That's our collaboration, our next collaboration.
So there is a paper that was published in Nature magazine just about 60 days ago, that how the microorganisms in our gut use the microRNA interference to control amygdala, which controls our mood and behavior. It controls our prefrontal cortex, right? So if you think about every single chronic disease, we name them whatever we want. These are just the symptoms. Parkinson's starts in the gut 15 years before you see the first symptom. Alzheimer, depression, anxiety, obesity, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, heart disease, even the cancer. Now the research paper was published by Mayo Clinic on breast cancer and gut microbiome. 3 months ago, it was pancreatic cancer and microbiome. They just published a paper on liver cancer and microbiome. Not only the microorganisms cause these diseases, they also influence whether drug works or does not work. So there was a paper published about a month ago on whether immunotherapy works or does not work. It depends on your gut microbiome. Whether chemotherapy works or does not work depends on your gut microbiome. Because they are the first line of the things when you take drugs. Drugs are being metabolized by them. They convert them into the things that are absorbed in the human body. Right? Our human body is like a donut. There is a tube that goes right through it, right? 70% of our immune system is along our gut lining. Our microbiome is constantly communicating with our immune system and is training the immune system. The time the baby is born, all of the baby's microbiome comes through the birth canal as baby is going through the birth canal. And then the mothers, through the breastfeeding, is not only giving the antibodies, but also delivering the microbiome. And that is really training the immune system. And that's why the babies who are delivered through C-section, and God bless, no one wants it. But the fact is, they end up getting the eczema, the allergies, because their immune system has not been trained at birth. And so point is, even so, that most people don't realize that first 7 days of the mother's breast milk contains colostrum. That colostrum cannot be digested by the human body. It is essentially a complex oligosaccharide that can only be digested by the gut microbiome. So imagine what nature is telling you, that I just created this offspring. The best way to keep this offspring healthy is not to feed it, but to feed them. Because when they are healthy, it's going to keep the offspring healthy. And that tells you how important that is. And then we sit here, we throw the antibiotics like a nuclear bomb inside the body and kill them all. So our medical system has waged the war against bacteria and viruses because 100 years ago, people were dying from infections. So they thought since it's infection, it is viral or bacteria, all of them are the enemies. And they didn't realize that what makes us human is them. And when we kill them, no wonder the more money we are spending in healthcare, the sicker we are getting. What is the reason? Why do you believe that suddenly when we start eating the processed food, the GMO food, more and more people are getting sick? People who are living in the farm, in the rural areas, they don't get Alzheimer, they don't get allergy. Come spring, they're not sneezing every year and saying, oh my God, pollen is killing me. Take a chill pill, it's a pollen.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about Viome and how this relates to what we're talking about here, because I think we should talk about the technology in Viome, and because there are other microbiome testing companies out there, and I've used them in my clinical practice for a few years, and then Viome came out, and I was really intrigued how you partnered with Los Alamos Labs. And tell us a little about the data they give you versus what's available with other microbiome testing companies.
So first of all, this technology, as you mentioned, Dr. Shah, came from a national security work that was being done at Los Alamos National Lab. And the problem they were trying to solve was, if somebody, a bad actor, were to get hold of something biological, how would they know what is making people sick? So they developed this unbelievable technology that looks not just for what organisms are there, it looks for how active they are, but more importantly, they look for what is it they're doing. What are they producing? Right? Because that is what really matters, what they are producing. The reason that all other microbiome companies have really been doing disservice to all of us is The technology they're using is cheap, and that's why they try to sell something cheap, but it's really completely useless, right? So companies that exist right now, they have been around using 20, 30-year-old technology. They're scamming people. So companies like Ubiome and American Gut Project and, like Biome, I mean, they're just scamming people. They use this technology called 16S. 16S, what most people don't realize is basically a small fraction of a gene that only exists in the bacteria. That means by definition, you cannot see any viruses, you can't see any yeast or fungus or mold, anything. Even the bacteria, you can only see at a genus level. What most people don't know what the genus level is. Genus level is like saying the genus of LA is there are some men, there are some women, there are some children, there are some old people, but they're same as Seattle. And the fact is, at a genus level, every human has same genuses. Now, some cities, there are more women, there's some cities, there are more men. In same way, in some people, there are more firmicutes, some bacteriologists. If there is more crime in LA and there are more women, doesn't make women criminal. Right?
That's a great analogy.
And that's really what they do. Oh, you got more bacteriologists. Oh, no wonder you are a problem. Really? Could it be Paul? Could it be John? Could it be someone? That doesn't even matter. That's a species. Could it be the plumber? Could it be the electrician? Because that's the job they're doing. And what we learned was very interesting. There could be 100 types of different organisms producing exactly the same thing, whether it's good or bad. That means if they are all producing butyrate, why do you care it's this or that? You're getting enough butyrate. If they are producing LPS, lipopolysaccharide, is going to cause inflammation, and it could be 100 different organisms. Here's the other part that is very surprising. Same organisms can produce different things. It's like the same person can be a plumber. He can also be an entrepreneur, right? So you could do multiple things depending on what is opportunities exist in front of it. So what's an opportunity? It's called food. So think of your gut as an information processing unit. Food is the information. When you change the information they get, they change their behavior. So they change their behavior based on two things. What is being fed and who else is out there and how many of them are out there. So think about like in the humans, same person can behave really calm and quiet in presence of one person, and they can be completely wild in the presence of someone else, right? So it really changes the behavior of the same person. Also, the same person changes their behavior when it's in the mob. The group behavior changes them. So they do something called quorum sensing, and once they say there are enough of them out there, their behavior changes.
Wow.
Right? It's just like humans, right? You get in a crowd, and you start throwing rocks. And so anyway, my point is, we are the only company in the universe, period, that can actually look at all of this. And then what we do is, we take all of that information, by the way, the tens of 100,000 plus genes that are being expressed. No human can look at that. We put all that information, all the information about the phenotype. Then we take all other information that is machine learned based on how each food is going to be digested by these gut microbiome. But more importantly, we spend millions of dollars trying to understand how each person's gut is going to respond glycemically to different food. That means I can tell you just by looking at your microbiome, that when you eat that carrot, what's going to happen to you? When you eat almonds, what's going to happen to you? What is going to be the glycemic response? We take all of that information, we feed it to the artificial intelligence and say, okay, now what food is best for Dr. Shah? What food is good for for Kevin based on how their body would their own gut microbiome. And that's the reason we're able to get very specifically what foods are good for you and what foods are bad for you. And if you follow that, essentially, our goal is not to take care of your chronic diseases. The chronic diseases happen because you have a chronic inflammation. So what we're doing is fixing your leaky gut, fixing your gut inflammation. That lowers your other inflammation, and the symptoms disappear, right? So because we took care of the flame, once the flame is not burning, the symptoms go away. So we have people, we don't ever claim that we cure autoimmune diseases, but we have hundreds of customers who are telling us their joint pains are gone.
Of course.
Right? We have people who are saying the acne they have had for 10 years, they've tried everything. The acne is gone. We have people, two women who went on Dr. Oz show, as you know, one lost 71 pounds, we lost 49 pounds. We're not an obesity cure. But guess what? We reduced the inflammation and the weight came down.
I think it just comes down to the concept that the root cause of most chronic disease, obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer's, is inflammation. And if you could stop inflammation, you've really arrested all these diseases in this tract. And we've done a terrible job as humanity over the last, as we've industrialized, is creating nothing but an incredible amount of inflammation in our bodies. And that's what's led to all the chronic diseases up to this point.
Thank you for pointing it out, because you're a doctor, you stated so clearly. That is really the fundamental issue. The chronic inflammation causes chronic diseases, and the chronic inflammation happens based on all of our lifestyle, by the way. Food is a large part of it. Other part of it is our stress, right? Imagine, stress is really good for humans, but for stress, we can't survive. When we were living in the savannas of Africa, when we saw the tiger, that stress is what gave you the chance to fight or flight.
Yeah.
But that was really good because you ran away. Either you got eaten or you ran away. But either way, you were no longer stressed. The stress was gone.
Yeah. We didn't live with it 24/7.
We didn't live with it 24/7.
Yeah.
Now we work. You always wonder, am I going to get fired? Am I going to get this customer? Is my wife really loves me, right? Every one of these stress every day in this modern lifestyle is causing you stress. That means that stress is in your body constantly. It's releasing the corticoid, the cortisol, that's changing your microbiome, and your microbiome is changing your stress. So it's a bi-directional thing. So every time you are stressed, you change microbiome, and when you eat wrong food, microbiome changes, causes you stress, and it just goes back and forth.
Yeah. Incredible.
So let me ask you, what's mind-blowing to me is, I agree, you have amazing technology. You're measuring RNA versus DNA.
Yes.
RNA is actually the signaling of what's actually happening with these microbes, not whether they're there or not. And so you're seeing which microbes are alive and what they're doing, which you can before now, you can never get these types of information. But how do you take, this is a ton of information. How do you take all this information, correlate it with the data that's out there, and turn that into food recommendations? So how do you make that leap?
Yeah, so it's not a leap. Remember, every food is chemically, we know. So we created a whole food ontology database. That means what each food contains. And then we look at these microorganisms and say, what is it they're synthesizing and what they are metabolizing? And then we go through all the literature to say, if these organisms and if these genes are overexpressed and these genes are underexpressed, we know what they are producing. So we know how much of flagella is going on, how much of LPS is being produced, how much of butyrate is going to produce, how much of folic acid is being produced. And we say, you're producing too much LPS. You're not producing enough butyrate. LPS causes inflammation. Butyrate is an anti-inflammatory. What food can we give that can give these guys to produce more butyrate if you have a butyrate producing organisms? So we look at what's the potential to produce butyrate and how much is being produced. Now, if we say you have a lot of potential, but you're not producing enough, we change your diet. But if you're saying you don't have a potential to produce a lot, then we give you supplements. We say you need the butyrate supplement because there's nothing you can do about it. But those organisms that are a little bit right now, when you change your diet and suddenly get rid of killing those other things that are essentially stopping these guys from growing. Remember, this is an ecosystem. There is no one unique right ecosystem. So if you're on an Amazonian forest, rainforest, every step you take is a completely new ecosystem, and yet everyone is lush and green. So you both can be healthy with completely different ecosystem. So point is, when you minimize certain foods, guess what happens? Or you're not eating certain foods, you're not feeding these bacteria. When they go down, suddenly these butyrate guys who are being suppressed, They start to grow faster. Now, guess what? You don't need the supplement anymore, and you're gone, right?
Have we evolved with that though? Because I mean, back to your story about humanity and how humanity's evolved. I think a lot of people, I hear the debate a lot. Well, if we just eat whole foods, if we just eat organic, if we eat the things that should be healthy, why are we having problems with them? But like you said, spinach may be good for him, but it's not good for me.
Yeah.
So just trying to understand like where we are today in society. Was there a transgression that we evolved to the point where not all the things that should be healthy are, or is it based on different factors?
Lots of factors. First of all, we are not living in the jungles anymore, right? So when you, so remember, we are a product of our own environment. That means we are breathing the air. We eating the toxins. Everything around us is changing. If we were living on the farms, we are constantly around animals. We are getting all the microbiome we are inhaling. When cow is farting, right? You're playing with the cow dung, the things fall. You're pulling the things from the ground and eating the root. You basically shake up the dirt and you eat it.
Yeah.
You're getting the microbiome. We are no longer getting any of that stuff. We are essentially eating processed food. We are no longer eating the fiber. Our body is completely different. In fact, the organisms that used to exist on those people, we don't have them. So if the organism that they had is not what we have, how can we eat the same food they ate?
Yeah.
Right? So my point is, if you look at the microorganism, they have done a lot of trials and say the people who live in the Amazonian tribes in the Amazonian forest, they have a massive amount of diversity of organisms, and 20% to 30% of those organisms don't exist in the modern humans at all now because we've killed them all. So we can't eat. So people say, what if we ate their diet? Their diet is really good for them.
Yeah.
Their DNA is also good for them. So for example, I can give you why the DNA. A lot of people believe, this 23andMe and all the people who do the DNA sequencing, and people believe the human genome was a software of humanity. And once we understood the software, we will know what to do with it. What turns out is our DNA is simply the alphabet. We have 99% same DNA. Us and a tree have 90% same DNA.
Yeah.
What makes us is really what DNA does, what genes are expressed. Our genes are same. Look at us, each one of us. Our hair has the same DNA that our nose, skin, our tooth, our lung, and heart. Same, not similar, same DNA. Why do you don't get tooth growing up here and hair growing in your mouth? Because certain genes are expressed and certain not, right? So it's the gene expression that counts, right? And that is really what happens is, a lot of people say if you have more copies of APOE4, you're likely to get Alzheimer's disease. Sure. And that is just so screwed up, right? Because we see people who are living in tribes, they have 8, 10, 12 copies of APOE4. They never ever get Alzheimer's because it turns out APOE4 is also anti-inflammatory. That means they get eaten by bugs all the time. They don't get infection because it is anti-infection. Right? So it turns out that a lot of the things, same thing that causes cancer in humans, they have 12 copies of them in elephants. Elephants don't get Alzheimer's. Why is that?
Wow.
Elephants never forget anything, right?
Never forget anything.
Exactly.
Why is that? My point is, so all these association studies that people have done is really we have to start rethinking about what is happening. I think Dr. Shah, you said it right. What they are doing is what matters. It's the expression of those things. And for the first time, we have a technology to be able to do that. And that's why we believe this is going to change people's lives. We understand what is going on. And now we are going to be adding more things to it. So we're going to have optional services such as to be able to look at your blood. So a couple of drops of blood will be able to completely RNA sequence it to tell you how your mitochondrial genes are being expressed. All the inflammation markers. So as opposed to spending $1,000 on a cytokine panel, all the transcript for all your interleukins, TNF alpha, CRP, you'll get them for free.
Wow.
Same type of thing, all the gene expression on the host side. So now we understand all the gene expression on the host side, all gene expression on the microbial side, and we put them through the artificial intelligence, and we can tell you what you can do to stay healthy.
That's amazing.
And I think the beauty of this whole thing is, this is a pretty complicated conversation, and the microbiome, and I'm sure, I'm keeping up with half the things that you're saying here, right? But the beauty of it is you've put it into this kit, and you can now take it with volume and give people a roadmap without having to learn the depth and the intricacies of all of this. So to pretty much give them a roadmap for what is right for their life.
So all they get, basically this thing, as you can see, open it up. First of all,
beautiful new packaging here too. Good job on your marketing team there. We're unboxing the package, and it's a beautiful silver box with a little kit, and it's a little poop collection kit over here.
And by the way, it's really interestingly, all it has is a toilet seat and this test tube. So, and in the thing, on a toilet paper, you put the toilet seat up there, you literally take this touch of the thing, you put it right here, shake it up, put in this package, prepaid envelope, and you send it to us. 2 weeks later, on your app, on your phone, you get all the results, and better yet, you see all the recommendation. It tells you what your inflammation looks like. It tells you what your digestive efficiency is, your metabolic efficiency, and then it tells you don't eat spinach or eat spinach. Should you be eating beetroots or should you be eating bell pepper? And it tells you through each food what is good for you and the foods that are not good for you. And that's simple.
It's amazing.
Right? And that simple thing changes your life, because once you change information input, your output changes.
Yeah. What I love about your product too, Naveen, is that it's constantly learning and evolving. It's kind of like an app that you get free app updates. They have your data, and what they do is they'll give you updates as they get more information, as artificial intelligence learns more, right?
And without charging you a penny.
Right.
It's incredible.
And here's the thing. The one part that we forgot to mention here is that also once normally if you're eating the same food, your microbiome stays mostly the same. But when you change your diet based on the recommendation, and as you change your diet, as we talked about, your ecosystem in the gut changes. So now you have to test it again, otherwise you get imbalance again. Just like tuning your car. You can't say, I tuned my car 10 years ago, why'd I have to do it again? Every year, if you don't tune it, it goes up in a repair shop, right? So think of your ecosystem when the things are not, imbalanced, they're like that. And you start eating food, they're imbalanced. And if you don't stop and change, now they're imbalanced again. So you got to keep straddling.
So you're saying you would want to retest every year?
If you are sick. So if you have a chronic condition, then you want to be really moving faster. You should be testing every 3 to 4 months so you're really in balance. And then as you get better, maybe twice a year and then once a year, right?
Yeah.
But you really have to make sure in the beginning that you keep it balanced so you don't go completely out of balance fast.
Right. And that's one of the things, as a physician, we normally test people once a year for things. And Next Health is absolutely on the other end of that, like you are. I think you test more often if you're having problems. And until you get yourself into a state where you feel that you've achieved your optimal health, then maybe you cut back on testing.
Exactly.
But testing is so much cheaper now. The amount of data that we can get now is just incredible. And why not know your data?
But
you should take control of your health, right?
This thing used to cost $5,000 per test.
Oh, exactly.
And we brought the cost down to $399. And I believe you are, in fact, are offering a special deal to the customers right now.
Right, absolutely, yeah. So we're doing a big event today, and so we'll be offering a special deal at the event. And what we also do is we pair the testing with a consultation with one of our medical professionals.
Very nice.
We hold their hand through the process so they can really understand how to make changes. And then, we can also then examine them. We can also give them other inflammatory markers so they have other markers they can look at. You mentioned CRP.
Yeah.
We measure that.
And you can also give them some of the, other types of supplements and nutrients that can essentially help them recover faster.
Right. It's an entire package that we provide in Next Health around gut health. And so this is a perfect addition to that package. And it just empowers us to give so much better information and data to people.
But Dr. Shah, first of all, I just want you to know that I am so impressed that you took a path coming from a dark side of keeping people sick, right? Imagine you only made money when people were sick. And your job was to keep them sick because you couldn't make money when they were not sick. And now you completely changed that. You're saying, I can do well by keeping people well, right?
And I totally believe that in 30 years, Ray Kurzweil and many people talk about this, but I feel like in the next 30 to 50 years, hospitals, doctor's office inpatient wards should become obsolete. They're only for acute emergencies like accidents. I think all that can go away with technology like Viome, and again, refocusing on the cause of disease versus just treating the symptoms. And this entire industry that we spend, 8% of our GDP on, it should become obsolete. And that's both of all of our goals, I think.
And by the way, including pharmaceutical companies, don't forget those evils.
Them more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And like you said before, it's even if we don't succeed, which I know we will, but even if we didn't, this will at least be the catalyst, because the problem that we face right now with Next Health and launching this business is businesses aren't incentivized to succeed because insurance doesn't cover the services that we offer, like doing a health optimization center where our job is to keep people healthy. I think the reason that we're pretty much the only ones doing it and you're doing stuff in this space is because, again, you're not incentivized as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, to build a business around this, because there hasn't been the market to support it previously.
It will change, Kevin, and it's changing already, because remember, people are realizing that the system is failing them. If you have a chronic disease, they know the current healthcare system is not going to do much for them. They have to stay sick forever. And they have been told by their doctor, just take this for the rest of your life. Right? And you can't. So you have to take control. And what I love about you is you're giving people control back, making them the CEO of their own health. Right. And that's the reason I love working with you, because we are on the same mission. And I believe that not only the insurance companies will change, they will be forced to change, because the self-insured employers are wisening up. So when they start paying for these services, suddenly everybody is going to demand that. And people may think the insurance is paying for it. At the end of the day, each individual is paying for it, right? They collect your money. Right? So point is that if you can reduce your own cost, it will be the best thing you can do, for not just for yourself, but for the whole society. And it will happen. I have no doubt in my mind, we will make it happen.
It's a mission to also leave this planet a little bit better for my children, right? I mean, I have a 4-year-old, 1-year-old, and I hate to think of them growing up in a world where disease is such a hugely prevalent thing. And, like we've been headed, I feel like this car of disease is getting faster and faster, and someone needs to help put the brakes on now. Obesity is rampant, diabetes is rampant, and every other company out there, pharmaceutical companies, are incentivized to see more disease.
Yes.
And we need to change that entire tide.
I completely agree with you, and that may be a great note to end on, that we can come together. If we all join, we will be able to essentially make this wellness system the healthcare system. And it takes each one of who is listening to it to come to Next Health, find out how they can take control of their own health, sign up for Viome and take control of your own health. And really, I believe as millions of us come together, we will change the humanity.
Absolutely.
Love it. Thank you so much, Naveen.
That was a great note to end on. It's such a pleasure and an honor to have you on the Forefront series. And we look forward to many more appearances and working with you in the future.
Looking forward to it, sir.
Thank you.